So in continuation to the previous video, so inhibitor of vitamin K, where we get coumarins and indane ions. So coumarins, the examples are warfarin and dicumarol, indane dion, anisine dions and diphenadione. Okay. So in detail we have to study about coumarins. So I will go in detail. So take out this table. So I will go to the inhibitor of the vitamin K. So inhibitor of vitamin K, it is also called as oral anticoagulants or slow acting anticoagulant. See, injectable anticoagulants are heparin. Oral anticoagulant, generally they are inhibitor of vitamin K, and they are slow acting anticoagulant. Heparin is rapid acting anticoagulant. Okay. So the first group of drug that comes under inhibitor of vitamin K is coumarins. So this coumarin, generally they are synthetic in nature and they are all derivatives of 4-hydroxycoumarins. And there is one compound called as dicumarol, which will be studied under toxicology. So for time being, this dicumarol, it is obtained from the sweet clover used to grow in plenty in United States, and it used to cause sweet clover poisoning during 1970s, and also it was caused as hemorrhagic disease in cattle. So the cattle grazed in the area predominantly the sweet clover is also grown in that area, where if the cattle is grazed in that area, it used to die due to hemorrhage. It is owing to the presence of the dicumarol in the sweet clover. Okay. And what is the action of dicumarol? It used to inhibit the vitamin K. And this coumarin, the major mechanism of action of coumarins is it interferes with the activation of vitamin K dependent clotting factors. So what are the clotting factors which depends upon the vitamin K? The clotting factor number 7, 9, 10, 2. These are the clotting factors which depends upon the vitamin K, which gets inhibited, which it does not get activated if there is inhibition of vitamin K. And also the protein C. So protein C is also the one which will not get activated if there is inhibition of vitamin K. Okay. Then the very important drug that comes under the group of coumarins is the warfarin. See, more commonly we used to hear this name warfarin, but it does not come into the picture yet. So now it's the time of warfarin. See, warfarin, we have studied it under plasma protein binding, we have studied it under drug interaction, we have studied it under drug in the enzyme induction, enzyme inhibition. So many times we have referred to this drug, but now we are studying about this warfarin drug. Okay. So warfarin is the first oral anticoagulant rodenticide. So I think now Australians, they need this warfarin. So it's the first oral anticoagulant rodenticide, now also used therapeutically. So this is the prototype drug under coumarins. So what is its mechanism of action? So you know the mechanism of action. It causes inhibition of vitamin K. How the inhibition of vitamin K, to be precise, causes anticoagulant action, that we are going to see. See, I told you there are certain clotting factor which depends upon the vitamin K for activation. See, what do you mean by activation of clotting factor? So in general sense, I have already told you the activation means, see, the clotting factor, it will be having glutamate arm. So it will be having a glutamate residue on its membrane. And this glutamate residue, it has to be carboxylated. A carboxyl group has to be added to the glutamate to make it active, to convert it into an active form. So for that, there is an enzyme that is required, carboxylase, which carboxylate the inactivated clotting factor, where a carboxyl group will be added to the glutamate arm. Okay, a carboxyl group is added to the glutamate arm of the clotting factor, wherein which this clotting factor will be activated. Once the carboxyl form is incorporated to the glutamate residue, you know the calcium, the positive ion, binds to the negative carboxyl group, and it will help in further activation of other inactivated clotting factor. So that's how the calcium acts as a cofactor. Okay, that is one thing. So here carboxylase is the enzyme that is helping in the carboxylation of inactive clotting factor, and in turn it's helping in its activation. See, once this reaction is going on, there is another reaction that should go hand in hand. If this activation of clotting factor has to happen, there should be another action, another step. It should act. It should go hand in hand. That is the conversion of vitamin K to vitamin K epoxide. See, along with carboxylation, there should be conversion of vitamin K to vitamin K epoxide. Again, the same enzyme catalyzing both the steps. See, once vitamin K epoxide forms, this vitamin K epoxide, it has to get back into the vitamin K. So the vitamin K amount has to be replenished. Okay, so it should be recycled. The vitamin K amount should be recycled because its amount, the amount of vitamin K itself in the body is very low. It is synthesized by the bacteria that is present in the large intestine, right? So since its level is very less inside the body, it has to be replenished. It should be recycled. How it is recycled? By reconversion back from vitamin K epoxide to the vitamin K with the help of enzyme vitamin K epoxide reductase. So this is how the whole thing happens. So how the vitamin K is helping in the activation of clotting factor? It is one of the steps which is helping in the carboxylation of the inactivated clotting factor into the activated clotting factor. Okay, once vitamin K gets converted into vitamin K epoxide, the inactivated clotting factor get converted into activated clotting factor. To further activate the remaining inactivated clotting factor, vitamin K epoxide needs to get reconverted back into the vitamin K. Okay, see, for example, if there is only one vitamin K present in the body, see, assume only one vitamin K is present in the body and there are 10 clotting factor which has to get activated. So what should happen? The vitamin K has to get converted into vitamin K epoxide, then again it has to be replenished back because only one is there. So that vitamin K, it will recycle itself and then it will help in the activation of 10 other clotting factors. I told you what are the clotting factors that depends upon the vitamin K. The clotting factor 7, the clotting factor 9, the clotting factor 10, the clotting factor 2. So if you see the half-life of these clotting factors, the 7 clotting factors half-life is 6 hours, 9th is 24 hours, 40 hours, then 60 hours. See, onset of action. See, the onset of vitamin K action starts when you see the deficiency or when you see this clotting factor is not activating. See, when you see that after 6 hours only. Why like that? See, the vitamin K, see, before that, I forgot to tell you. What is the action of warfarin? See, warfarin, it's going to inhibit this vitamin K epoxide reductase enzyme. See, by inhibiting this enzyme, there will be no reconversion of vitamin K epoxide back into the vitamin K. Okay, that is the action of warfarin or any coumarins. Now we shall see what is the onset of action of warfarin. The onset of action will be 6 hours. Why 6 hours? See, warfarin I have given, immediately the anticoagulant action should happen, right? But what's happening here? See, warfarin, it is inhibiting the reconversion of vitamin K epoxide into the vitamin K and not the forward conversion of vitamin K into the vitamin K epoxide. See, vitamin K conversion to vitamin K epoxide is happening normally and inactivation of clotting factor to the activation is happening normally. See, while reconverting back to the vitamin K, it is going to inhibit it. Now you have added the warfarin, its reconversion is stopped, so there is no reconversion of vitamin K epoxide back into the vitamin K. So now, see, for example, 10 clotting factor, see, there are 10 amount of the clotting factor 7, out of which the 5 clotting factor 7 has been activated. After that, you have given the warfarin and warfarin has stopped the reconversion. So before giving warfarin, already 5 clotting factor 7 have been activated. Its action should be stopped, right? So when its action will be stopped, after the lapse of 6 hours, its action is going to stop. So that will be its onset of action. That is the time in which the warfarin will start acting. After the lapse of 6 hours, there is no replenishment back into the vitamin K for further activation of the remaining 5 clotting factor 7. Okay, that is the onset of action. And slow acting. Why it is slow acting? Because of this reason. Then what will be its duration of action? Until the lapse of this prothrombin clotting factor. So its duration of action will be up to 3 to 4 days. So up to 3 to 4 days its action will be there till this clotting factor will be stopped. Up to that time, its action will be there. The warfarin action will be there. Why slow acting? Because of this reason. Why long acting? Because of this reason. So did you understand what is the major mechanism of action of warfarin? So it inhibits the vitamin K epoxide reductase, no reconversion back of vitamin K epoxide back into the vitamin K. So it is not further available for the further activation of clotting factor number 7, 9, 10 and 2. That is the mechanism of action of coumarin, to be more precise, the warfarin. Okay. Then pharmacological activity. The pharmacological effect of warfarin, it is having gradual anticoagulant activity in 1 to 3 days. You know why I am telling gradual. It starts from 6 hours. Longest duration of action 4 to 7 days, because it has to wait for complete lapse of that prothrombin factor 2. Then only its metabolism will start. Okay. Then full anticoagulant effect is achieved only after complete inhibition in the synthesis of clotting factor 2, right? But prothrombin time is prolonged soon after administration of warfarin. Since you are adding warfarin in vitro to a blood, so obviously prothrombin time will be increased. See, in prothrombin time, see how do you measure prothrombin time? See, in prothrombin time, you are adding a factor which activates extrinsic pathway. That you should remember here. See, whereas activated partial thromboplastin time, there they are adding a factor which stimulates intrinsic pathway. Whereas for prothrombin time, here they are acting some factor which activate extrinsic pathway. And which is the clotting factor that will be activated when this extrinsic pathway is stimulated? If you remember, what is the clotting factor? Clotting factor number 7. And which is the clotting factor first that is going to lapse when you use warfarin? Again, the factor 7. That's the reason why prothrombin time is the important diagnostic test to measure the activity of warfarin, and not the activated partial thromboplastin time. So prothrombin time is prolonged soon after you administer the warfarin. See, why soon after the administration of warfarin? Mostly that clotting factor 7, it has already lapsed its 6 hours when it comes out. Okay, so that's why it's prolonged soon after administration of warfarin. So it depresses bone formation. Warfarin, it depresses bone formation because some proteins which play a role in the bone formation, it might also be dependent on the vitamin K. That's how it depresses the bone formation. Then prothrombin time is preferred over activated partial thromboplastin time and thrombin time for measuring the activity of warfarin. So it is given through oral route. Onset of action, 6 to 12 hours. And important thing, 99% plasma protein bind. So warfarin toxicity, if you remember, only 1% is doing its duty. So if anything that is given along with warfarin, it comes and interfere with this plasma protein binding, its activity will be increased and causes hemorrhage. Okay, that we should be careful. So longer half-life, because duration of action itself is longer. Side effect causes anemia because of blood loss, ecchymosis, epistaxis because of hemorrhage, hematemesis, hematuria. See, when I see this, always one thing that comes to my mind, it's just my assumption. See, normal situation, without any injury to the endothelium, in a normal individual, without any injury outside, the blood is not allowed to clot, right? It's a normal situation. At that time, you don't see any hemorrhage. So why we see hemorrhage after giving anticoagulant? See what the anticoagulant is doing inside the body? It is not allowing the blood to clot. So it is very similar to the normal situation. So why this anticoagulant is causing hemorrhage when its sole duty is not to get blood clot, and in normal situation also the blood is not clotting, where we don't find hemorrhage, but why after anticoagulant there is an hemorrhage? So that you have to answer. So that also you consider it as an assignment and you answer. Okay, so there are so many assignment questions for this topic, so along with that you add one extra assignment question. Okay, so treatment for overdosage of this warfarin. So what will be the treatment for overdosage of warfarin? So what it is doing, it is inhibiting the vitamin K action, right? You replenish the vitamin K. See, there is no reconversion back from vitamin K epoxide to vitamin K. So the vitamin K amount is deficient in our body. You replenish its level. So you administer vitamin K plenty. you administer it plenty, its action will be relieved back. So phytomenadione, you give phytomenadione in warfarin toxicity. See, if you are using warfarin along with salicylate, salicylate is going to displace warfarin from plasma protein. That's how it causes toxicity. At that time, you give vitamin K1. Okay. Clinical uses, long-term treatment and management. See, for management or for maintenance. See, why we cannot give for initial, why we cannot give for um, why we cannot give for rapid treatment of anticoagulant action, because its onset of action is late. So for maintenance you are giving this warfarin. So whenever there is recurrence of thromboembolic disorder, so again this is a venous thrombus, not arterial thrombus. I already told you for pulmonary embolism it is used. So antiplatelet drugs are the one which are used against arterial thrombi. So rest of the group of drug they are used to treat venous thrombi only. Okay. And rather than treatment usage therapeutically, they are more commonly used as rodenticides. So if you go to Australia, they have started using these rodenticides more commonly. Okay. Now the very important thing in this chapter is the difference between the heparin and the warfarin. So that is very important here. What is the difference between the heparin and warfarin? You know, heparin is an indirect inhibitor of clotting factor, whereas warfarin comes under inhibitor of vitamin K. Okay. So what are the difference? The first is regarding chemical structure. So what is heparin? Heparin is a mucopolysaccharide, right? It is a mucopolysaccharide. What is warfarin? Warfarin is a derivative of 4-hydroxy coumarins, right? What is the source of heparin? Source of heparin is porcine intestinal mucosa and bovine lungs. What is the source of warfarin? It is synthetic. Apart from dicumarol, which is obtained from sweet clover, so others are synthetic only. What is the spectrum of activity heparin? It is both in vivo and in vitro. So both. Whereas warfarin only in vivo. We don't use it in vitro. What is the mechanism of action of heparin? Mechanism of action of heparin is antithrombin 3 will bind to the heparin. So it is going to cleave the clotting factor 2A and clotting factor 10A, right? Whereas warfarin is going to inhibit the vitamin K. How it is going to inhibit the vitamin K? By inhibiting the enzyme vitamin K epoxide reductase. What is the route of administration for heparin? Injectable, preferably IV and subcut, right? What is the route of administration for warfarin? It is an oral anticoagulant, so it is given through oral route. What is the onset of action of heparin? The onset of action of heparin is, so it is rapid onset of action. Here it is delayed onset of action for warfarin. You know the reason. Duration of action for heparin, it is 4 to 6 hours, whereas for warfarin it goes for 4 to 6 days. Drug interaction. See, drug interaction, less drug interaction with heparin. You see more drug interaction with warfarin because of 99% plasma protein binding, more drug interaction with warfarin. What is the antidote for heparin toxicity? You know, protamine sulfate. What is the antidote for warfarin toxicity? You replenish the vitamin K1. What is the clinical uses of heparin? See, for emergency treatment of thromboembolic disorder and to maintain the blood in fluidic condition, to stop clot formation, emergency for rapid treatment in ICU condition, we use heparin. See, for a COVID patient admitted in ICU, you cannot go for warfarin. So the patient will go into deathbed. So there we have to use heparin. Whereas for maintenance, see, patient is taking rest aram se, then for 4 to 6 days you can use this warfarin for maintenance therapy. You take for 4 to 6 days. Then laboratory control test for measuring, I told you, preferable test here is activated partial thromboplastin time, APTT. Here it is prothrombin time, because APTT is intrinsic pathway, prothrombin time is extrinsic pathway, because here the clotting factor involved is 7. The first clotting factor involved is 7, which is the important clotting factor in extrinsic pathway. since here it is 10A and 2A, they are the clotting factors involved in intrinsic pathway. So that will be the difference between heparin and warfarin. Okay. Now going back to the table. So going back to the table. So inhibitor of vitamin K, we studied about coumarins, studied in detail about warfarin, then dicumarol. And the second group of drug that comes under inhibitor of vitamin K is indane-dione. So all the drug that ends up with suffix diones, anisin-dione, diphenadione, they are all inhibitor of vitamin K. So mainly they cause kidney damage and causes leukopenia. Nothing much about these drugs. So which group of drug is having major importance? Only I have studied, I have made a point here. Okay, the rest I tried to collaborate in this table itself. So in two videos we have studied about the anticoagulant. One is about in vitro anticoagulant and in vivo anticoagulant. In vitro anticoagulant, you know, for laboratory purpose, for blood transfusion. So exclusively for laboratory purpose, what are the anticoagulants we use? Oxalate, sodium fluoride, EDTA. Why we don't use it for blood transfusion? Because of their toxicity potential. We don't use it for blood transfusion. There are separate anticoagulants available for blood transfusion. Sodium citrate, ACD and heparin, wherein which ACD is very commonly used. So is this sodium citrate, ACD, heparin is not going to any cause toxicity? No, because they get rapidly metabolized in the body. So there will be no staying time for them to cause toxicity. Okay. Then in vivo anticoagulant or systemic anticoagulant, wherein which we are going to see heparin and related substance, direct inhibitors of clotting factor, inhibitors of vitamin K. Under heparin and related substance, heparin and derivative, where we studied about high molecular weight heparin and low molecular weight heparin. What is the difference? High molecular weight heparin, wherein which the antithrombin 3 will bind to the pentasaccharide sequence. Along with that, the thrombin will also bind, so that antithrombin 3 will cleave thrombin. Along with that, factor 10A will bind only to the antithrombin 3, that is sufficient for factor 10A to get cleaved. Whereas for low molecular weight heparin, which possesses only pentasaccharide sequence and very few monosaccharide unit, thrombin fails to bind to the low molecular weight heparin. So thrombin is not cleaved here. The only clotting factor cleaved by low molecular weight heparin is factor 10A. Then heparinides and oligosaccharides. Then direct inhibitor of clotting factor, the direct inhibitor of factor 10A and direct inhibitor of factor 2, that is thrombin. In that, the important one is iridine and congenes. Iridine, it is obtained from, it is a protein. Okay, whereas heparin is a mucopolysaccharide, iridine is a protein. Iridine, it is obtained from salivary gland of leeches, so it's going to directly inhibit the thrombin. Whereas heparin, indirect inhibition of thrombin, a middleman is there, antithrombin 3 there. Whereas iridine, it itself is structurally similar to antithrombin 3, so directly cleaves the thrombin. So synthetic ones are bivalirudin, desirutin. Then miscellaneous, its action is also inhibition of thrombin, argotroban and dabigatran. Dabigatran is very important, even though it comes under miscellaneous, somewhere very down in the table. Then also we use this tablet for life-saving condition. In such COVID condition also we are using this dabigatran. Okay, if any of family members suffering from COVID, so if they ask what is this dabigatran is this, its action is this one. Okay. Then the factor 10A, the direct inhibitor of factor 10A, under that xabans. So anything that ends up with suffix xabans are all inhibitors of factor 10A. They are given through oral route, and this is the important property of those xabans. Then inhibitor of vitamin K, the important one is coumarins, very commonly used as a rodenticide rather than for therapeutic usage, wherein which we use the drug warfarin, which is the prototype. We heard this warfarin several times, so get a chance to study now warfarin. So what is the action of warfarin? It inhibits the vitamin K. That's not sufficient. It does not inhibit the vitamin K. Actually, it inhibits the enzyme vitamin K epoxide reductase, so that the level of vitamin K in the body will be decreased, because of which the activation of clotting factors. Which are all the clotting factors? You have to mention those clotting factors. The 7, 9, 10 and 2 will be inactivated. They will not get activated if the vitamin K level is not there in the body. Then indane-dienes. Okay, so these things we have studied in these two videos. And the assignment questions, so I am giving more assignment questions for this chapter, because there is lot of confusion that will get created in this anti-hemostatics. That's the reason, to clarify those confusions, I am giving more number of assignment questions. So orally active direct inhibitor of factor 10A is dash. Heparin efficacy is more than low molecular weight heparin efficacy. Justify your answer. Most potent natural direct inhibitor of thrombin is dash. What is prothrombin time and activated partial thromboplastin time? Reference test while using heparin and warfarin. Okay. And you can also write the effect of heparin and warfarin on these two laboratory tests. Then mention two alternative anticoagulants in patient with heparin induced thrombocytopenia. See, when heparin is used in a patient, so incidentally heparin is causing thrombocytopenia. If such is the condition, what will be the alternative anticoagulant you will suggest as a prescriber? Dash is an example of, that means one such that means those anticoagulant, it does not have this thrombocytopenia action. Okay, it does not cause any destruction of platelet. That will be the alternate anticoagulants. Dash is an example of both in vivo and in vitro anticoagulant. Most favorite question asked by, very commonly asked question. Initially a mild clot formation is attributed to the usage of warfarin. So initially a mild clot formation. See, warfarin basically it is an anticoagulant, but when we use warfarin, initially there will be clot formation. See, that's the reason why before using warfarin for 2 to 6 hours we use heparin. Initially there is an administration of heparin for 2 to 6 hours before giving warfarin. What's the reason? The reason being this the same. Initially, a mild clot formation is attributed to the usage of warfarin. What might be the reason behind pro-clot formation? So it's a starred question. So think and answer, okay? Which pathway is first inhibited by warfarin? Extrinsic or intrinsic or both simultaneously? First inhibited. Both, yes, but first inhibited. Following factor decreases the warfarin action. Choose appropriate one, okay? Inhibition of warfarin metabolism. If you use phenylbutazone or cimetidine, you know they are enzyme inducers, okay? Then displacement of warfarin, plasma protein binding if you use salicylate, or hepatic failure, decreasing the synthesis of clotting factor. See, even though clotting factors are inactivated, where you get those inactivated clotting factor? They are synthesized from liver only, okay? Or hampered absorption of warfarin from the GIT. So what are these four factors? Which among these four factors decreases the warfarin action? Okay, think and answer. The next question. Why warfarin does not act as anticoagulant in vitro? Why warfarin does not act as an anticoagulant in vitro? Dash can be used to treat streptokinase overdosage. Dash can be used to treat streptokinase overdosage. That is next in the thrombolytics, that is going to in the next video. If vasoconstrictor is a hemostatic drug, right? Vasoconstrictor, we use it as a hemostat. For example, epinephrine, norepinephrine, we are using as topical hemostat. If that is the thing, why not vasodilator considered as an anti-hemostatic? See, under anti-hemostatic drug, we have anticoagulant, we have fibrinolytic, we have antiplatelet drug. There is no such group like vasodilators. Why vasodilator is not considered as anti-hemostatic, right? See, vasoconstriction is one of the step in hemostasis, and also vasoconstrictor is used as a hemostatic. And why vasodilator is not used as an anti-hemostatic drug? That you have to answer. Again, a start question. Think and answer. Then heparin is a direct inhibitor of factor 2A and 10A. True or false? Natural protein and polysaccharide used as anticoagulants respectively are dash and dash, okay? Why warfarin is not an in vitro anticoagulant and heparin is an in vitro anticoagulant? Then example of an in vitro anticoagulant which does not act by interfering with calcium levels in the blood. See, all the in vitro anticoagulant act by interfering with the calcium level in the blood except one, which is that. We use blood and blood components as systemic hemostats, right? So in systemic hemostatics, we studied about blood and blood components, whole blood, frozen plasma, fresh frozen plasma, fresh plasma. So many things acted as systemic hemostatics. when indeed it contains anticoagulant, right? See, while collecting that blood or plasma, you use anticoagulant, right? See, while collecting blood, you use anticoagulant, and the same thing you are giving as blood transfusion. Whether in vitro anticoagulants affect hemostasis mechanism inside the body. See, after a blood transfusion, if the patient is already suffering from the clotting disorder, if you use such blood or blood components, whether it does not have any effect on the body, it contains already anticoagulant. It's a starved question, think and answer. Then heparin is a protein, and when injected with patient, the patient might suffer from hypersensitivity. True or false? Then Fandop-Perinux activity is similar to low molecular weight heparin activity. True or false? So there are several questions I have kept in this assignment question just to make you understand this anti-hemostatics very well without any confusion. Okay, thank you.